the black man serve the white man? Why does everything the black man do benefit the white man? Why does the black man say freedom is doing what I want to do? And why is it that everything he wants to do enriches the European?
Welcome to the desert of the real.
Peace, everybody. This is your brother, Mr. Holipsism, coming to you on New Year on a Sunday, January 12th. Actually, this is the birthday of one of my friends who had passed, Mr. Tyrone Fly Tie Austin. Happy birthday, bro. Rest in peace. By myself. Where is everybody? Everybody told me they was ready, and I'm the only one here. What's going on? Anyway, while I wait for my people to come, I just want to get into what the topic is. And the topic is stop hating on China, losers. And the description is China is currently the world's largest manufacturer of products and goods. It has held this position for several years due to its massive industrial base, efficient supply chains, large workforce, and extensive export-oriented economy. The country is a global leader in producing electronics, textiles, machinery, and numerous other goods, making it a key player in international trade and manufacturing. No one is putting a gun to your head and forcing you to import Chinese goods and products. Instead of getting teary eyes and snotty nose over China being number one, invest in your own manufacturing and beat them. Unless, of course, let me bring in Jabari. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm hanging in there. Just as an aside, as you can see why I'm the Prophet Hollop, I called my team getting bumped in the first round. Remember that?
Yep, you were right. I thought they would have had a chance, but
I know my team. I know when they on some BS. But anyway, that's another story. So what do you feel about this topic we're discussing today?
at the end of the day, this topic is basically an encapsulation of when you don't have government policy, when you don't have a future plan, and when you are not serious about substance. You only care about catchphrases trying to get people's emotions. Because China in 1997, y'all, economy was 18 times less than what it is now. China in 1997, when Hong Kong was handed, and then I think in 2001 when they got into the World Trade Organization, China's GDP was only like $1 trillion. Like in the 90s, and you know this, Japan was it. Like the 80s, the 90s, Japan was it with their cars, with their semiconductors, and China, was not what it was. China in the late 90s, early 2000s was nothing like what it was. So what happened during the late 90s? Because that's when China really took off. I know in the 70s, for those who do not know, Mao Zedong dies, and then you have Deng Xiaoping comes in and makes, Chinese reforms and opens up and sort of corrects, some things that Mao does, even though Mao does a lot of great things during his tenure. So during the late 90s, 2000, China is going through industrialization, rapid industrialization, obviously with companies, going through. But China is making it an industrial policy, state government policy, that it wants to be, a superpower by its centennial 2049. So what are they doing? They're going to universities in America. And you see major Chinese scientists in American universities today. They are having technology transfers, and they are watching closely major technological developments that are going on over time. So then, by the mid-2000s, China becomes the second largest economy, passes Japan, and then in the 2010s just shoots off and is now basically, in terms of PPP, which is purchasing power parity, in 2014, they officially passed the United States as being like the largest economy in the world. And now China has the most high-speed rail. They have Huawei, one of the major phone-producing firms. They have their own phone system. That you have groups like Alibaba. You have, I think they have like something like DiDi, which is their version of Uber. They have Weibo, which is the Chinese version of Twitter. They got WeChat. They have, other major groups like SMIC, which is a semiconductor firm. And all of that becomes a result of China investing in their domestic capability and making it a state policy through their economic beliefs, Chinese socialism with Chinese characteristics, that they are where they are now. China didn't get where they are because it was just, they just magically appeared. China got where they are because of the state government policies that they implemented over these last really 40, 50 years that got them to this point, which is why they had the greatest reduction in poverty. They lifted 800 million people out of poverty because of that. They turned into a shipbuilding superpower. They turned into a manufacturing superpower because of that. So I know that was a lot, but I really want people to just be like, I respect China. China has so many things that you can look to learn and inspire, because what they've done is truly remarkable.
They invested in themselves. In short, right?
Mm-hmm.
They invested in themselves. So the question is, why are they looked at as some type of boogeyman in the West? You know what I find funny, Jabari?
Mm-hmm.
People want to ban TikTok because they don't want to deal with China, but yet they're wearing Chinese clothes. You gonna get rid of that too?
Mm-hmm. Here's the thing. It's all about, we all know what it is, Hala. It's about Western hegemony. This happened during the Cold War. I mean, with the Soviet Union, they thought they were a threat, so they had to go after them. In the 1980s, you had one of America's close allies, Japan. I mean, again, if you know this in the 80s, because I'm not an 80s baby. I was not born and grew up in the 80s, so I really don't know. I can only go off of, what I've read and things that I know. During the 80s, like I said, Japan was the hot spot, and Japan was predicted to pass the U.S. economy by 2000. I mean, Japan was on that route, but they were dominating in terms of exports, technology, video games, cars, shows, you name it. Japan was that place in the 80s. Guess what the United States did? The United States got upset. It led to the Plaza Accords. So what ended up happening? It depressed the yen. They had to appreciate the yen. What did that do? That led to a decrease in Japanese exports. And then not only that, you had the Japanese housing bubble. So what ended up happening in the 90s? The Japanese economy collapsed, and to this day, Japan's economy is basically in a state of stagflation. Japan's economy has basically stayed the same the last 30 years. And what do they want from China? They want China stagnated, which is why they're scared of China. They thought if we put all of these jobs in manufacturing in China, that China is going to become more like the U.S. It's going to become a neoliberal landscape. And they're now realizing that ain't going to be the case. So what do they want to do? They want to prevent China from growing, which is why I don't think a lot of people are aware. The Biden passed a CHIPS Act. And I mean, the CHIPS Act as in basically you have three tiers. You have tier one, which is unrestricted access. This is the U.S. and its vassal states: France, Germany, Finland, Sweden, Norway, Australia, Japan, South Korea, Taiwan. Then you have top tier, which is tier two, which is basically, some restricted access, some things you got to go through. And that includes basically all of Africa and even Eastern Europe, the Middle East, Latin America, basically restrictions on advanced ships. Then you have tier three, which is the most restrictive, and that includes the Congo, Central African Republic, a lot of African countries, and then you have, of course, China being one of them, where they're just trying to completely ban them from having access to chip-making technology. And it's all due to the fact that the U.S. oligarchy sees hegemony as the most important thing. Power to them is the most important thing by any means necessary. So that's why they're scared of China, period. They see China as the biggest threat to them because they have the manufacturing capability, they have a huge population, second largest economy, and now they're catching up with the United States technologically. To put it in perspective, 40 years ago, y'all, China did not have a patent in terms of when it comes to research. A patent. Today, China produces more patents and inventions than anywhere on the planet, including the United States. China is just behind the United States in terms of research and development in technology, semiconductors. Matter of fact, they're passing the U.S. in artificial intelligence and electric vehicles. So that's the reason why they're scared. China poses a real threat. They see their system crumbling. And so they feel they need to shore up by any means necessary and create the Chinese boogeyman.
Mm-hmm.
Just like they did the Japanese boogeyman in the 80s.
And it begs the question, because for those who understand how tariffs work, you usually apply the tariffs so that the goods that are being imported cost more because you'll be able to produce them less. So you're incentivizing basically manufacturing in your own country. But the idiots that are in charge now aren't using it the same way because they don't understand how it works.
Mm-hmm.
The United States has no intention of out manufacturing China because they can't pay U.S. workers the same that the Chinese can pay their workers to produce the goods. Am I wrong?
No.
So my thing is, why are you hating on China? Nobody's putting a gun to your head and forcing you to buy Chinese goods. And if they are a boogeyman, are they doing something wrong? Where's your investing in your own manufacturing? Didn't we lose? Oh God, excuse me for saying that. Didn't the United States lose manufacturing jobs under Trump even more than they did under Obama?
Yep.
And this is the guy who's talking about how they hate immigrants. Oh, we're gonna get on that. the head fake that him and Elon did when it comes to hiring immigrants. They're not actually against the concept. Wow, isn't that odd?
Yeah, you're mad at capitalists for acting like capitalists.
You mind enlightening them on what happened with that?
Yeah, so basically, Trump supporters were hoping that, hey, when he hired an Indian man for one of the major government positions. I think it was artificial intelligence, AI. It was like AI role. And MAGA basically said, hey, why don't you have somebody who's like a white American? So they were like, is he going to come out and condemn the H-1B visa? And basically Elon Musk comes out and says, no, we need the H-1B visa. We need more of them coming into the country because they do work that Americans don't want to do. And they allow us to become competitive in the global stage. So MAGA didn't like that. So then Vivek Ramaswamy comes in and says, the reason why we need them to come in is because, like Elon, they do the work that they claim that Americans don't want to do, and Americans are stupid. They don't have the necessary skills, the necessary, attitude, culture, the way that Asian cultures do. And so that created a massive backlash. And so Trump weighs in and basically says, I need H-1B visas because I use them all the time. Even though it's not necessarily H-1B visa, there's another visa. He just still says, like, we need them. And MAGA was shocked and disappointed. And I'm just sitting here like, y'all understand capitalists are going to act like capitalists. But this is one thing about the far right, and the same thing with ADOS and FBA. They act like capitalists will not act like capitalists. They really do believe these people in power actually care about them and actually give a flying damn about them. And they don't bother to understand capitalists are going to act like capitalists. Of course, they're going to let a massive immigrants H-1B visa come in because that means they can pay them less. They are completely beholden to them, and they can maximize profit. It's like Donald Trump's tariff policy. Oh, we're gonna have tariffs on everything. You do realize that companies have to pay those tariffs. Like, basically, it's a tax on them. So guess what that money gets transferred to? The consumer. Because guess what happens? The corporation profit margins are going to go down because we live in a world based on profit. If they have these tariffs, but they don't raise the prices. So it ultimately falls back on the consumer. That increases everything. It increases inflation, which further stresses the finances of everyday Americans and the economy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I hope you guys understood what he said, because the whole narrative of the Republicans getting into office, and especially Trump, was based on the evil immigrant. That was the whole narrative. Everybody's like, "Oh, these immigrants is coming into our country and taking our jobs." Da, 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 da. And then they turn around and they say, "Well, there's some immigrants we like, and actually, we like them better than you."
Because Holla, what we know this, we know it all good and well, Holla. These politicians say this stuff because it doesn't threaten their power in terms of being anti-immigrant, and it focuses the attention away from them to immigrants. So of course they're gonna give you the anti-immigrant red meat because it's not gonna affect them. It's not. They're not personally going to be harmed by anti-immigrant rhetoric. That's why Trump was doing like, oh, I'm anti-war and I'm against the establishment. People literally thought Trump was against the establishment, even though everything about Donald Trump tells you this man is the most pro-establishment man on the planet. This man was taking billionaire money left and right. He said, oh, I'm going to be for the workers, going to all these worker places. Now this man has bought in the most, fortunately, one person who's slightly pro-labor, but he's not pro-labor enough, union-busting officials, people who are looking up to people who are against the minimum wage, against setting a minimum wage, pro-war, all this stuff, and y'all just ate it up. Because Trump's a China hawk, for those who don't know.
Yep. And American companies, and they love that overseas Chinese labor.
Yeah. They loved that cheap labor. They loved it. That's why they're going. Why do you think they're offshore manufacturing? It's about capitalism. You can't be mad. Like, y'all are mad at capitalists for acting like capitalists. Of course they're gonna send their jobs overseas. maximize profit. I'm not going to pay a worker in America 10 to 20 times more, sometimes even 100 times more, when I could go to somewhere like Vietnam and charge like $2 an hour, $1 an hour, maybe.
Right. And this is something that we need to talk about, because that dynamic is not going to change. If companies can get cheap labor in other countries, they're going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So what are the ramifications of that? What are the implications of that going into the future?
Right.
Are you going to out manufacture and out produce China at this point?
No. You don't have the industrial base. China has the industrial base. America doesn't.
And not just America. I'm talking about other countries as well.
Yeah. No. They're not going to out manufacture China. They're not.
So how does this affect economies globally going forward?
China is going to be the center of global power. Eventually, like, it's going to happen soon.
You know
China's,
why?
they have the resources, and they control the strategic industry.
And how did they get there?
They invested in their economy. They took advantage of the situation.
Thank you.
See, China saw the neoliberal era as this is our chance to get in, get everything we need, and still keep everything intact, which is why China is where they is. I want everybody to understand, because we need to apply this to Africa. Africans, and I told this before, Africans today, y'all, are poorer than what they were 10, 15 years ago, almost 20 years ago. Africa's manufacturing today is less than what it was in 1970. We make up less manufacturing today than what we did in 1970. Our purchasing power is less today than it was in 1970. And again, in the early 2010s, Africa was having some of the fastest growth economies in the world. And what did we do? We blew it. And now, for the last 10 years, our economies have been in stagnation.
Can I add something?
Go ahead.
Introduce yourself.
I'm Mike with the BAO. I want to say that part of the reason why they're upset and belligerent against China is because China more or less is more flexible when it comes to giving out loans. And actually, when it comes to trading with them, it's not a give. You're not in a lose-lose situation when it comes to trade or bilateral relations. With China, you have an alternative where if you trade with them, you are actually getting something out of it. And in terms of like infrastructure, things you actually need. And it's kind of ruining the con that the West is trying to impose on the rest of the third world. That's why they're acting belligerent like that. And that's how like in the case with like Russia, when they were trying to cause a wedge between Russia and China, and also like trying to troll Russia with Ukraine, they imposed like multiple sanctions against them, stole all their money, right? Kind of delegitimized the Western financial system because it's not secure in case you have something against them politically, right? So what Russia ended up doing was like increasing their relationship and trade with China, and their economy is going up instead of going down like the West wanted it to. So it's sort of like an example of what happens when you trade with China instead of like trading with the West in general, if you're trying to develop your own country.
And the thing about China, real quick, is that all China cares about is making sure its people are economically prosperous. So when China comes to people's countries, like Michael said, China's not coming in with the mindset of we're going to make Kenya into the neoliberal version of just the Kenyan neoliberal version. They're not trying to make neoliberalism, corporate capitalism, American style, just become the standard of other countries. And so, China's just like, yeah, we'll trade. I mean, economically, yeah, we're trying to build the Belt and Road Initiative. So yeah, of course, China's not going to come in lecturing because that's not their end game. That's not their end game. But
Right.
America wants every country to basically become an American vassal, neoliberal, borderline mercantile country. That's what they want.
And another thing is, like, in order to understand where China is and where China is going, you have to understand where China
Oh,
actually came from. Hello?
introduce yourself so they
Uh,
know
th-
who's talking.
uh, this is Chima Madu from the BAIO, and I'm basically the resident Nigerian American in the group.
Fellow Tether, welcome.
Tether Nation in the house.
I'm the anchor baby, as the ADOS people would say. All right, so it's like you have to understand where China came from, right? Because people tend to forget that China was also colonized by the West. I mean, not to the extent where Africa was colonized, but they were still exploited for their labor and resources. And after the Chinese Revolution, the Chinese were going on like a slow trajectory upward, which basically exacerbated after the 1970s. So basically, like, all the Chinese people, the only thing the Chinese people want to do is be prosper, is have a prosperous nation. They don't, because China was the most prosperous nation in the world before, and however, they didn't go across the world colonizing other places like the Europeans did. And I think, and China wants to be right back at that spot. And when they trade with like African nations, they they're just simply looking for trading partners. Like they're just helping people build their bridges, build their roads. They're not telling these African countries like how to govern their countries and who to trade with, like say Britain and France do.
Yeah,
Can I add a
but we
caveat to
can't.
that? What you just said?
All right.
It's that when it's not that they're like so benevolent, and so righteous. Because if you have, like, for example, corrupt leaders involved in that trade, and there's a lot of graft going on, they don't mind, still doing it, right? Because they're not moralistic like that. It's on you whether you take advantage of the deal and actually develop your nation. And if you fuck up, right, and you decide to, like, graft the money instead of not building anything, it's on you, right? They're not
Exactly.
trying to overthrow you or anything like that. But if there's another leader that comes in and they're not corrupt and they're anti-corruption and they want to actually reverse that trade deal with that a guy who was like reverse to whatever trends or deals that the previous corrupt guy was doing, right? The Chinese will actually work with you because they're in the business of win-win. They're not in the business of like me like a zero something where like I have to be the one on top of you. You get me?
Mhm.
Exactly. And this whole thing about China colonizing Africa is like, honestly, it's like when people even just utter that idea, it's like they're fucking gleeful about it. They're like,
It's projection.
"You see, China's taking over Africa. You're going to miss the West." It's like, I'm like, dumbass. Like, China's not the fucking West, all right?
It's projection. That's all it
Yeah.
is.
I don't, but
And
I don't think excuse me, y'all. This is Emoji. Hey y'all. I don't
That's
think that
wrong.
the whole like China's taking over Africa. I dig that energy, but where I come from is Africans act like we so retarded that we will allow it to happen on accident type. Like China don't have to be like, let's get Africa. But if you listen to Africans talk about how great Chinese people are and how Chinese people come in to build stuff, you would think that China is trying to get Africa. My fear is that Africa is so damn slow that Chinese will just have it. Like, oh shit, look at all this stuff that we got in control of, because Africans aren't trying to be in control of themselves. That's my fear. Not China doing it. Africa's letting it happen.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that.
And I have one last thing to say because I have to get off. Is that to add to Chima's point? You talk about they put that whole country on drugs. They put just like how they put the black community on crack. They put that whole country on crack. Look at the opium wars. That's their version of it. They put
two wars. They're the prototype.
Mm-hmm. They did.
That's a crazy point.
They had a century of humiliation that China really refers to as a century of humiliation. What they refer to the 1800s and 19th century as, and then finally, the reason why countries would gravitate more towards China is China does not basically BS in your face. China will not preach to you, we believe in human rights, we believe in freedom and democracy, and then we'll turn around and is dropping bombs on little kids and blowing them up to smithereens, impoverishing the whole country. China is not trying to do that. China doesn't give a fuck about that. China doesn't pretend to basically be a snake oil salesman or a charlatan or two-faced. The West literally will sit in your face and say, we believe in freedom and democracy, and then dropping bombs on schools and little kids or giving weapons to fund a literal genocide. And then we'll go in the same day and say, this country's committing genocide while they're funding
genocides, actually.
That's all I gotta say. That's why China's just listen, we just want to make everybody.
I have a question. I have a question as it relates to this. What about the concerns that China is behind? Is more so behind what's going on in the DRC than the United States? I'm not accusing them of anything. I'm just asking a question because it looks a little bit more like, I'm not saying there aren't other actors playing a role there, but it looks like it's heavily like it's more so with China because of their cultural their COVID obsession.
Remember what I said before about they're not moralistic. Whatever deal they have. I'm trying to answer your question. Is that they're not being moralistic in terms of if they're willing to, if they have to deal with a corrupt leader, they're going to do it and advance the interests of their country, right? If for the DRC, if the DRC gets their shit together and actually wants to do another deal, reset everything and do another deal with China, China is more than willing to comply. When you're dealing with the West, right, especially the United States, what you're dealing with is that they're going to start creating their own franchise version of ISIS, which is what Boko Haram. You're going to see Boko Haram in DRC, just to destabilize the economy so that way they can get their deal the way they want it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what China's dealing with when it comes to the Uyghurs. They talk about China, oppressing the Uyghurs. It's all bullshit because the U.S. and the West are basically creating the Uyghurs, are radicalizing the Uyghurs to fight against China as their own version of ISIS within China. Same way that they use the Chechens against the Russians. Same way they're using the gangs or warlords in Haiti. Same way they're using ISIS in Libya, in Nigeria, the Sahel, right? Yeah. It's the same pattern. If you actually pay attention, you'll notice the pattern. If you're speaking from ignorance and you're just listening to the mainstream media, you'll drink the Kool-Aid and think that you're saying something when really you're not.
Exactly, and people don't realize that the whole Uyghur Islamic independence movement is actually based in Idlib, which is ISIS territory.
In Syria.
Yeah. And one more thing I want to add is when people try to do this whole China's colonizing Africa thing and we shouldn't be interacting with them, what it gives me is that it gives me the impression that too many of our people are looking for any kind of excuse to remain under Western domination because because unfortunately too many of our people don't see multipolarity as an option. To them, it's either continue living under Western domination or live in the or basically live in the void. Those are
Mhm.
the only options they see.
They see us as bystanders who should just watch as world events are happening, not as being active participants. I want to
Dang.
address Garrett Cole's.
Oh, Jabari, you just said something. You just said something that I was gonna like address, please, before you move on. An observation that I was having as we're talking about the politics of damn near every superpower, every nation. Then when it comes down to what are we doing, right? It's like our people, our leaders don't seem to be having these conversations. Like it's just so frustrating to me, y'all. It's like, why can't we point to, hey, y'all, but look though, this is what we doing in Liberia and Haiti and everything, y'all. So here's how y'all can support our what we're doing. It's like, no, y'all, look at what everybody else is doing. You know what I mean? It's just so
Yeah,
frustrating.
we're
Carry on.
bystanders. We're bystanders in the race. Everybody's running on the track meet, and we're just the bystanders looking by as everybody's running to see who gets the gold medal. That's what we are, and it's just pathetic. I wanted to address the Garrett Cole's point, and I want to address the point about China. People saying China colonizing Africa. When has China ever gone on the Chinese president make a speech and said Africans should be grateful that Chinese troops are there because if it wasn't for our troops, you'd have terrorism running wild. That's what your homeboy Emmanuel Macron literally said as French troops were departing. He was like, Africans should thank French troops and be grateful for French troops. Because had it not been for the French troops, you might have had extremists running up in your country. And then lastly, to address Garrett Cole's point, how does the Black world respond to this going forward? Do we leave the U.S.? Obviously, we've all said this before, land, infrastructure, nationhood.
Wait,
But
what was the question?
the question Garrett Cole asked was, how does the Black world respond going forward? Do we leave the U.S.? And
The
I'm
black
leaving
world?
you with this.
It's on the
Is
screen.
yeah, it's
No,
on the
I
screen.
see it, but I'm saying the black world, like, who's really paying America any attention outside of us right now? Like, we're addressing this problem, sort of, but it's like
Yeah.
it looked like the average African is like more worried about what they're going to eat, for dinner than much
Mm-hmm.
less this. That's a problem.
Yep.
Exactly.
So,
It's a problem. And then
Like
last thing,
that.
I want to say this.
All right, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I just want to say this real quick. I was gonna get
Go
off.
ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead, man. Spit your
What I
bars.
was gonna say is that you understand one, land infrastructure nation, and two, understand we're active participants. We're living through history. We're not bystanders, just watching stuff happen, and we can't do nothing. Okay, we are active participants in history. Once we do that, we'll be good. And with that, y'all, I got to hop off. Thank you for this
Oh,
conversation.
all right.
Thank you for this discussion.
All right. Peace, bro.
Thank
have a
you,
good one.
Jabari. Appreciate you, bro.
Peace.
Yeah, like Africans, as a people, we as Africans have a choice. We either make our mark in this multipolar world that is emerging, or we stay tethered to the West as it crashes, burns, and disintegrates.
You said the magic word there, tether.
Yeah, exactly.
Yo, I said something a while ago that I think is relevant to this discussion. And this is why I don't have this fear of the Chinese boogeyman. Is it the only people who fear an agenda are the people that don't have one? You can't go into trade with people expecting them to look out for your interests. That's your fucking job. So why are you hating on the Chinese? If you make a bad deal, that's the Chinese fault? You see what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
that's something that me and you have touched on off camera. Like, yeah, how you blaming somebody else for your fuck up because you're not paying attention? I'm not saying justify the swindler, but it's like, bro, You need to have your antennas up at all times.
You can't expect the person who you're trading with to look out for your best interest for you and your country. That's stupid.
And
It's stupid and it's weak.
another thing I want to add, because we're seeing it in like multiple examples, is that the U.S. wants to be the leader of the world, right? Because they want everybody to follow their footsteps. They want to be the original tribal chief, a la Roman Reigns, right? They're battling for the Ufalafa, right? So what it is that they're doing all this shit, right? But look what's happening in California right now. You got citizens trying to, use their Prada bags, filling it up with water just so they can put out a fire at their house. Like, there's no infrastructure available for them to actually fight the fires that's going on. Basically, almost most of LA is fucking in hellfire right now. And you got the nerve to tell me about how the Chinese are taking advantage of me. Like, the U.S. is cannibalizing itself.
Mm. And the only difference between them and Roman Reigns is that nobody's yelling OTC.
Yeah. They think they're Roman Reigns, but they're Hulk Hogan trying to make that Netflix ad speech,
Let me tell you something, nigger.
Can barely put his arms up to hear to cup his ears to hear the booze.
Yeah. It's no longer the 24-inch pythons.
The U.S. is Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, that is so true, man.
Yeah.
That is so true.
Like I see the U.S. as, the Joker from the Dark Knight. I see the America as that, and Batman explains it. You're ugly, and you want the world to be as ugly as you are.
Yeah, and they're willing to burn the shit down.
And those are the militant Americans.
Nuclear war. They willing to go to nuclear fucking war, bro. Like, wow.
Yeah, everybody's got their bunker, so they don't care.
Yeah, they do. I'm gonna be out here dead. Like, what the hell?
Everybody's going to be dead. Those bunkers only last for so long. Like, how are you going to grow food inside of a bunker?
See, this is the reason why I say I really question like these preppers and these ex-military and all of these people who so hardcore, who's getting like, bunkers and non-perishable items and guns and all this stuff so they can basically use them on regular citizens. Why don't you just kill the Illuminati? Why are you letting people take this world to some post-apocalyptic nightmare? Kill them. That's what you do, right? You ain't got no problem pulling the trigger when it comes to black folks. Or who you perceive as the so-called enemy, because that's who they really prepping for. They're prepping for the citizens in their own country that's going to be hungry and starving. That's who you're prepping for. You're not prepping for the people that's putting you in that situation, which is odd to me. Since you have all this skill set, you can't seem to get to those people for some reason.
Because the Illuminati cuts the check for them.
Ah. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Peace, Dawood. Dawood's in the chat.
Oh, yes.
Peace.
My brother Dawood.
Hey, what's going on?
Who is this? They changed their name. Baruti. This Baruti?
Yes, it is.
That's Baruti. Baruti just trying to press my buttons, ain't he?
Oh God.
That's what this is.
To call a nation.
Just teasing me.
Bro, I got an email from that bum last night. I'm like, how am I still getting this? Whatever.
I mean, it's up to y'all if you want to tackle that. I
I
really don't
don't
have
want to. I
nothing to
don't want
say.
to. Yeah, I don't want nothing to do with. I don't
I
want to
think
have
I'm
nothing to
good.
say about college.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't
I
want it.
think
I
I
don't
think
want it.
we good on that. I think all the tethers are in agreement.
Yeah, pretty much.
Hey, I pulled out my phone out my pocket to see what you was talking about, and I seen like 3 words, and y'all took it off the screen like that's a sign.
Oh, let
Okay.
me. You want me to put it back up?
No, I don't know if everybody's in agreement. I seen the first thing. See, I don't like that because I go off on this dude, and I don't want to waste our time doing that. I don't want to waste any energy on that. At another time, though, because this dude is a problem, but he ain't our biggest problem. It's one of our biggest problems though, is that we focus on everything except for what we really could. It's not that what we should be focused on. It's the fact that there's like physical things that we can do so that we could like collect empirical data about what we can do about our situation. And instead of doing that, we'll literally talk about the plans of everybody else. We'll talk about the detailed geopolitical plans of China, of Syria, motherfucker, of Russia. And then when it comes down to just talking about us protecting ourselves, you'll hear black people saying, shh, you can't be saying that. You can't be online talking all like that, bro. They'll come in. It's like, what are we doing? And like my big brother said, we'll take arms on ourselves because I slap the shit out of Kyle if I see him. Like straight up, like in real life, I would really like want to slap him like on some real stuff, right? However, what about them people that's constantly harming us? Constantly. Like I'm sure right now it's a state that some judge didn't let out some man that did something harmful to a black person who needs to be touched. I'm sure that there's been another brother who's been killed by the police. That police needs to be touched. I'm sure of these things, and they just walking around skipping and whistling Dixie and getting a paycheck for harming black people. And we don't want to talk about that part though. We never want to talk about that. I mean, ever. When I say ever, I mean ever. Ever. Everybody disappears. And that shit is frustrating. So we just gonna stay on code and keep not fucking talking about it.
Well, I know you already know what I'm gonna say. If you know me long enough, everybody knows what's getting ready to come out of my mouth. There is no we. There is no us. There is no our. And the reason why we're not talking about it, because there is no we.
And everybody should feel fucking uncomfortable about that.
It does not exist on a socioeconomic and political level. Until we actually form a we, all we're going to be is a scattered bunch of individuals. And the only thing that's going to align us is how we look, aesthetic similarities. I've been saying this for 20 years. And I still got people, there's still people who's wondering what we should do.
What do you think we should do? What do you think?
How do we overcome this? How do we work together? The United States profits off of our ignorance. Like, yeah, the problem ain't the ignorance.
It's
I
a
don't
must
really
that
have an
we
issue with the ignorance. My problem is, what about the niggas that got the knowledge? What's their problem?
Right.
They want to talk to
Right.
all the ignorant people. I can understand ignorant black folks. I'm not saying I agree with it, but I understand it. What I don't understand is the people who have the knowledge, the people that know what time it is. What are you doing? Because you're trying to talk to the ignorant people and gather them up and get them in order. What about you? What about the people who believe in what you believe in? What about the people that know what time it is? What are y'all doing?
How about that?
Are you getting together with people of like mind? Are you consolidating and forming alliances and with people so that you can do actual fucking work? What are you doing? And if you're not doing that, why are you talking to the masses? The masses are doing what the masses have to do. They taking care of themselves because they don't have any support system. There's no support system for them. They out here hustling. That's why what is it called? Hustle culture. That's the thing for us right now.
Hmm.
How to get to the bag. Where do you think all of that is coming from? It's coming from the fact that you don't have any collective way to address problems. You basically out here on your own ass. And I understand that. I don't agree with it, but I understand it. How are you going to talk to a guy about doing the right thing when doing the wrong thing is feeding him and his family?
Hmm.
How's that conversation going to go? Or how has it been going? Nobody ever pays any attention to you until you successful doing it by yourself. Then they want to come and claim you after the fact. Anyway. No need to be messy. We have a country. We're building the next generation of leadership there. LIN is being carried out. Yes, Mike. Me and Deontay was talking about this yesterday. And the future's looking really bright for us. If you're focusing on Liberia, the future's looking bright. And watch. You know, like, all right, Deontay. Remember the conversation we had yesterday? You know what?
Yeah.
Black folks remind me of the chicks in those gold digger videos. You know, like you walk up to the chick and she's like, I don't want nothing to do with you. Look at you, you're looking bummy, da 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 da. She's disrespecting you, just hand waving and dismissing you. And then you let her walk off, and then you get into your Lambo truck or your Lamborghini, you know, like one of these expensive cars. Then all of a sudden, she's interested. That's black folks. You have to show and prove. When black folks see the progress in Liberia, then they'll be interested in what we have to say. Until then, they're looking at us like we dusties. Am I right?
Yeah.
Hey, ugh. Oh, we ain't got no car.
They're talking about that black shit. They talking about that hotep shit. That same old shit. He cute though.
But yeah, man, the whole point of this thing is that China is where they are because they invested in themselves. They had a goal, they had a plan and a vision for the future, and they implemented it. And now they have reaped the results of all of that work. No one is going to out manufacture the China unless they make the same sacrifices and the same investments in themselves.
Yeah.
You got African countries side by side and not trading with each other. Where's the African high-speed rail or maglevs?
Yeah.
When you make it easier to get from country to country, it makes it easier for you to do trade.
We right now we don't even have our own international airlines.
Nope.
And that's honestly just bad leadership. I don't care who it is.
Across the board, because the goal and the vision for the future should be connecting African countries socially, economically, and politically, connecting them, trading with your neighbors. That should be the goal, a united Africa. Isn't that what the goal of Pan-Africanism is supposed to be?
Even
Yeah, I
if
thought
you,
it was.
But that's like, but basically it's like when you have a goal, like let's say your goal is you want to beat Terrence Crawford. And then when I look at your actions, you sitting on the couch eating Eskimo, like Klondike bars. You're not doing no training, you're not doing no road work, but you're gonna beat Terrence Howard. I'm sorry. Oh, wow, that was a mistake. Terrence Crawford. You're gonna beat him. That's what your goal is. But when I look at your actions, you're not doing shit. What's gonna happen is you're gonna get your jaw wired. That's what's gonna happen. And I doubt if you even make it into the ring.
or make weight.
Yeah. Fight might be canceled because of your fat ass. And you talk about tether this, tether that, when you tethered to that goddamn couch.
Did you get? Oh, by the way, since we're on this, since you bringing up Tether, I forgot to ask. Did you get the screenshots I sent you this week?
Screenshots
Of the fucking weird ADOS people celebrating that Fat Joe got kicked off of the hip hop podcast in America.
Oh
And
god.
the response and the responses to it were like, y'all niggas on here yelling and raving about some shit we don't even control no more. Like people ate them up for that.
Yeah, the Jews control hip hop at this point, right?
Those
Yeah,
are the
they bought
important
BET.
things. Those are the important things. Fat Joe. What
Exactly,
a
man.
victory. What a
We
victory.
don't take ourselves serious, man, and really expect other people to, you know.
Yeah, people have asked me what do I feel about that. And I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about because it's not important. Fat Joe, unfortunately, is being he's being a victim of what they call it, tetherization.
He needs
Fat Joe is a Puerto Rican who
Yeah.
grew up in the Bronx, and they treat him like a Mexican from California.
Yeah.
Nobody questions Fat Joe's coming to the in the words that what do they say, coming to the cookout. Nobody ever questioned that before, but now all of a sudden he's been turned into a Mexican.
So I'm guessing Big Pun, he wasn't one of the key figures in hip hop, right?
Exactly.
That make hip hop like take off in New York.
Yeah, he was a tether.
Mm.
It's so ridiculous. We're not we are such an unserious people. We're so silly.
And Biggie was a tether too, if you don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was from Barbados. His mother was Jamaican.
Yeah. Tether's
You know
running
what?
wild. Let me tell you something, Tether.
You know what? You know what I've been trying to crack on. I've been trying to crack down on like getting people to really pay attention to who they're paying attention to. In terms of like, why are you still listening to Roland Martin? Like they do most of their talk. I like listened to something of his before I said something about him. This dude on here talking crazy about Stephen A. Smith. They're like banging on each other. Like this is their game. That and talking about the same though the Democrats. Now the Democrats go back to banging on each other and intermittently talking about Trump. This is their game though. And when you ask what the end game is, like, how do we get our people to see that they're not even being led? They're not being led astray. I don't even know the word to use, the word that
Just
I
mass
want to use.
confusion.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, how can you not look at what you're looking like? Cool, you don't want to listen to me. You don't like my tone. You don't like what we talking about, the nation new thing. Cool. Who you listening to? Because every time I see Umar, he's talking about snow bunnies, and I still don't see a school. Every time I hear Roland Martin, he's literally talking about the Democrats, and then donate to me. And then every time I hear Stephen A, you know, he's all over the place talking about sports in same politics talking about how much Trump is right. I don't hear anybody telling black people to even donate to their own bank. No one's telling us to even support ourselves. Everybody said no, just be for your damn self, self, SELF. But when it comes to us and we's, no one is talking about it. Like no one is telling us to do anything that will actually help us together, except us. And I used to say that, and I used to hear big bro say that, and it was just like, colloquialism. Now it's true. There is nobody telling us to do stuff together. Like for real though. Everybody just after the bag. No one's saying, y'all, this is what we could be doing together. And then we can make it into a system by putting it in different communities. Then we start building them schools. Then we start changing our minds. And no one seems to be interested in that, Joe. That's the part that's getting me. You can even make money doing this. We can get filthy rich doing this. Having a system where we just building schools in black communities so that we're re-educating ourselves. That will be a filthy rich scheme. And they ain't even want to do that. And I know why, because they scared. Because they scared of the backlash that they're going to get from the general public, black and white. They scared of the backlash when they said, no, we're not funding this school. They're scared when they're going to get their feet put to the fund and say, no, you're going to have to fund it. That's what they scared of. They scared. Straight up. I'm calling all of them out. All of them is scared and bitch made. Every single one of them. Only one I ain't calling out is Jalen Rose, man. He doing his thing with his little thing. I wish that was bigger. I don't know the business about it, but all that shit should be a system of these things, man. Seriously, these fools got the holler. Big bro, man, then I'm gonna stop. Seriously, excuse me, y'all. Sorry, y'all. What's the Jewish loan people? They got the free loan Jewish something where they got a whole bank where they just giving they folks free loans, y'all. Fuck is we doing, man?
No
But I'm wrong for being mad and shit, right? I'm wrong for being on fire about it. Get the fuck out of my face. Seriously.
No interest loans. Yo, Emoji, can you see the screen?
Hang on, let me twist my phone. Peace, everyone. Just listening.
Underrated.
Hey, my brother. I know he's still there, man. I still feel him. He out there handling his business, man. He's still there.
We can't let that just
really
slide,
good to
you know.
Not at all. I didn't even see it. Yeah, man. What's up with my little brother, man?
Peace, underrated.
That's my little brother forever.
Yeah, I'm glad.
Forever, little bro. Yes, sir. Seriously, I'm diving back in. You would like to hear this, underrated. I'm re-diving back into the Blueprint for Black Power, our blessed brother Amos Wilson book. That long old treasure trove of a dang book.
Well, I got a message. Just came in, hot off the presses. Well, what you gonna do, Tether? When the 24-inch pythons, the world's largest arms, throws your black ass out of this country.
Oh man, something's wrong with y'all.
Well, let me tell you something, Tether. Yeah, man. These people, man.
Speaking of which, are we going to do a trip, a BIO trip outside of in America, I should say, this year?
Yeah,
or we just gonna save it all?
No. It's going to be to Liberia.
Okay.
It's the first 2 weeks of it's the first 2 weeks of December. So for those of y'all who need a yellow fever shot, y'all better get that in by, I want to say, September, because that's going to be crucial. You must have that to get in the country. The passport and visas, our good brother Mr. Hold'em System actually has that figured out. So in about 2-3 more months, we're going to really start putting that together. So y'all going to have to keep your eyes and ears open, because this is a process it's going to take time, but we're going to have to pace ourselves with it, because everything has to be done by at least October, or it's not going to happen. So
we got plenty of time.
We gotta go, man. Yeah, we gotta know. We getting there.
And if, as far as the whole passport and visa issue is concerned, I mean, we can talk about that,
in the
offline in
Discord
the other
tonight.
group.
Yeah,
But we found a way to get around that
yeah,
and make, or I should say, not get around, but just expedite that process. So
right.
yeah, we going to Liberia. Hopefully, we go
If you,
to Atlanta this year too.
that's what
I
I
would
was
like
saying. That's
that.
what I was talking about.
I don't
I
know.
was,
I don't think I can do both,
I
but I can do
understand.
one. Yes.
Yeah.
man,
I want
I come out there and sleep on Carl's floor for a weekend. You playing? I know how to get down.
I
Yeah,
want to add a
man.
caveat to your Hulk Hogan analogy.
Yes.
Even the Undertaker, a proud Republican, a proud American, can't stand Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
That's a good. That's a
Jesse
good one.
Jesse Ventura says he'll never reconcile with that dude.
Yeah, he said that. Yeah,
Basically called him a bitch.
he said, yeah, he a snitch. He's a racist. He's a bitch.
Yeah, he's a
Damn,
big time racist.
that's a lot.
Yeah,
Big
he
time.
got Jesse Ventura fired for trying to start a because he was trying to start a union for the damn wrestlers, knowing what we know about the industry now. They don't
Oh
care
yeah,
anymore.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I seen that on the documentary. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was actually good. Think it's safe to say we
He
all
said
came up with the WWE, WWF.
he said
yeah,
him and Hulk Hogan were friends, and he didn't find out about it until it was in discovery on trial. Like when Vince McMahon, they asked Vince McMahon who told him, and he said Jesse Ventura. And he's like, "What? No, not Jesse. He said Hulk Hogan."
he said
He was like,
Hulk
"What?"
Hogan.
Hulk was a company man.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I was trying to
that
get
was
that money.
that felt so good. When I saw that on Netflix and I saw the crowd was booing him out of the building, I was like, "Wow!" That gave me faith in humanity for a second.
Yeah,
yeah, it did.
he's trying to
It's like the
mention off different
Undertaker.
names. He's like, boo.
Yeah,
keep,
but it's like yeah, he tried
keep
to.
Randy's name out of your
Yeah,
whore mouth. Boo.
yeah.
Yeah,
He was like it's like Undertaker's a Republican too, but we don't know. I never heard no stories about him being a racist asshole.
Undertaker is so respected that people
Hmm.
gave him a pass for having Trump on his podcast. Nobody really cares. It's like because he's respected. Hulk Hogan
Yeah,
is
and
not
he's
respected. He's not even in his own industry is he respected.
yeah, and Undertaker's not a racist asshole,
Right.
narcissistic asshole. Like, no, she's just not doing any of that. Well,
Yeah, it's fascinating the predicament that we in. How I think it's interesting how we have like this humanity. Black folks have this humanity within us that literally surpasses all understanding. So I could say it's godlike.
Mhm.
Yet, like we allow the world to mistreat us to a level that is also godlike. In reverse, I want to say though, I don't think that we should be persecuted and just keep accepting it. But it's like I don't know, man. It just I got lost in the front end of my comment. I literally that wasn't even the point that I was trying to make. But I literally just getting lost in just thinking about how how sick it is that we just endure and endure and endure it and
But
not seeing that
how
our
you
power
know,
is in ourselves. Our power is in ourselves.
you
That's
know
where the
how
power is, instead of Voltron and that shit. Go ahead, big bro.
how you know that it's dysfunctional because we're
uh,
not godlike with ourselves.
Exactly. Exactly.
How
That's
you
what I
gonna
was
be
saying.
godlike with how you letting everybody abuse you and you just turning the other cheek and doing all this other stuff, but then we'll stomp each other into the concrete. So
Or
it's
the
not
slightest
function.
hint of
It's
disrespect.
dysfunctional.
Yeah.
It ain't
Amos Wilson
real.
said this too. He's like, look, as much as like the white man has been putting their foot on our necks, like we have a part to play in making him who he is, right? Because it's it's a close relationship, despite how horrific it is. Us allowing it creates him, makes him who he is.
Right. That is so true. Wow, look at how time flies. We're over the hour.
We're good. Unless some of y'all on here got playoff teams y'all want to watch. I know that's
Let's
fine.
not talk about football.
All right, cool.
Let's avoid that.
Big bro.
Avoid
Big
that
bro.
subject.
Yeah, big bro, man. Big bro, man. Right.
But there's a
Hey,
reason
man.
why they call me the prophet holla, because I predicted it. I told you, one and done.
That's horrible, man. They might get, man, I don't know. Man.
I'm not even investing my mental toward it. I'm just glad they put us out of our misery so we don't have to deal with it. Because it was painful watching my team play. Painful.
I don't do that. My team about to get beat on. I can't watch it. I don't like it. But no, this was a good little episode. I'm glad I got to hop on with y'all. There, y'all. I got your mom right there, Joe.
Are you gentlemen going to be in a lounge tonight?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, that's cool. Well, I will definitely see you there. And I guess I'll just say peace to everybody. Love you all.
Yeah.
I'll see you next time.
Peace.
Sir.